Today we're going to be reading a poem because did you know that April is Poetry Month? And I'm going to be reading from a famous poet's book, and then we're going to talk about the art project that goes along with this. So for today you will need a small box, some glue, construction paper, some small found objects of your choice, and did I say construction paper? And something that you could draw or paint with. And I'll be talking to you more about that. So the author or the poet that we're going to be looking at and reading from today is Emily Dickinson. She's one of my favorite poets. And this book is called Poetry for Young People. It has a lot of different poems that she wrote. I'm just going to read this one for now. Okay. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us, don't tell. They'd banish us, you know. How dreary to be somebody, how public, like a frog, to tell your name the livelong day to an admiring bog. So maybe a couple of words in this poem were not very familiar to you. One of them is banish. And it said, they banish us, you know. What do you think that means? And here it tells me the definition of banish is to send away or get rid of. And then another word that we don't use every day is bog. The last phrase is to an admiring bog, and it rhymed with frog in 2 lines above that. A bog is a wet, marshy ground, and we think of frogs and little critters like that living around a bog. So if I think about the visual aspects of this poem, what do you think of? What things come to mind? So we know that it says, I'm nobody, who are you? So there's two things or 2 people or creatures in the poem, and that's left up to your imagination. The artist in this book used 2 people, but you could use any 2 of anything that's living. Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. So again, we know there's a pair. And then it also talks about a frog, how public like a frog, to tell your name the livelong day to an admiring bog. So that's why they have this little frog twice in this picture. Okay, so I really like that poem. I hope you enjoyed that one. You can use any poem that you would like. You do not have to use that poem. If you know a poem or have a book of poetry or want to look up something that you like, that is perfectly fine. So any poem will do. So I'm going to show you some of the things that we're going to need. So first of all, you need a small box. So I just happen to have this little, what's kind of like a jewelry box. This is just one example, and it's got actually got a bunch of fortunes from a fortune cookie. And you could even use things like this in your art. Okay, you don't have to. But we want to set up a scene, set up a box for a scene. So you could take the lid off and attach it to one of the sides of the box so that you have a background and a foreground. Okay, that's one type of box that you could use. See, it's just kind of a small box, not much bigger than my hand. Here is another box that's about the size of my hand, so you can sort of see the scale of it. The same thing, you could either put a backdrop that's tall and vertical like that, or you could turn it this way and put it there. This just has red tissue paper in it. You could take that out, and then you have the whole white inside of the box that you could use either direction. That makes a really great shadow box. So I want to talk about the term diorama. A diorama is a small scene, and it could be a large scene, but we're going to be doing a small one that you put in a box. So you've probably heard the term shadow box a lot, and it's basically the same thing. A lot of times they use shadow boxes to do science projects or art projects, either one. But a diorama is always a scene of some sort. So things that are called found objects are things that you just have lying around. You don't even have to buy them. Same thing with the box. You don't have to buy the box. A cereal box would be too big for this, and a shoe box might be an okay size. This is sort of a large box for this, and then you would need to decide if you were going to remove these side pieces or whatever. I just use this box to store things in. I'm going to give you a view or a list of some things that will come in handy. So maybe some string. You don't have to use string, but different colored strings could be used in your diorama or shadow box. I have a bunch of little shells and things of different types and a stone or a little crystal there. And if you have little beads like this, little seashells, they would need to be kind of on the small side. You could use those. Wiggle eyes, those little eyes that have the dot in them that wiggle. This one's really small. You could also use some torn papers. In another project recently, we used construction paper, and I told you to keep your bits and pieces. You might even recognize some of these from our previous project, a couple projects ago. But little bits and pieces can come in handy, and I'll show you what they would come in handy for. Magazine cutouts or things you tear out of a magazine could work as well. You're going to need glue, regular glue. A glue stick would be okay, but some of the objects are going to be rather small, so your liquid glue would be okay, but be sure that you use this sparingly or just a little bit of it. And then, so little objects, like I have this pig here. I also have some pom-poms, which are just little things like from the dollar store, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, or wherever. And even like little stamps. You may not have any stamps, but these are some that I just had lying around. You could use stamps if you wanted to. Okay, and then I have like random things like this little bit of ribbon, which I'm going to use for the project I'm going to show you. And then things like pipe cleaners or chenille sticks. This one's been used before, but even if it's been used, you could cut it, which brings me to the scissors. You will need scissors. So a box, glue, scissors, little found objects, probably construction paper, and if you're going to want to draw in it, you might need some fine tip markers. Crayons might come in handy for coloring, colored pencils, and then even watercolors. So I know that's a lot, but you can have as little or as much as you would like of any of these things or more. So I have a little cupcake wrapper thing that I put some of my small bits and pieces in, and that might come in handy just to kind of hold some of your little items that you want to use. I even have flowers that I dried from outside. You may not have that. You can create your own flowers if you wanted to even use that at all. All right, so what would one of these finished dioramas look like? So remember, a diorama is a scene that you create inside of a box. In this case, there can be large dioramas also, but this one is small, and again, notice the size of it compared to my hand. So it is from a mints box, like the Altoids or the little mints that you can get at the store, and I saved the box after the mints were all gone, and I created a scene. That poem that I read to you earlier by Emily Dickinson is kind of what I based this on. These could be anything that you would like to do. I'm looking at my kitty cat. He's going to have to be removed in a minute. So in this one, the two that I chose to use were two ladybugs. So if you can look really close, there's a ladybug here on this side of the box lid, and then there's a ladybug over here. And I use buttons for the ladybug's body on both of these. This one has two buttons. And I use curled up little pieces of paper to do the little antennae on the ladybug. And then these are just fanciful things that you would see like in a forest or something. I actually went and got leaves, small leaves from outside, and glued them down to the inside. And a little acorn cap. So these are things I just went outdoors and found. And you can find so many things in nature: twigs, small flowers, like dandelions and things are already blooming now. This is a little, just a little bit of something that I found lying around that has a little fanciful look to it. And then this is one of those pom-poms. I thought it looked kind of like a dandelion, or those things, the sun fuzzies that you blow. So I used a pom-pom for that. This is a little clay mushroom that I had, I think it was on a piece of jewelry from a long time ago that broke. And so I kept it and I glued the mushroom. So notice that none of these things are falling out because they're glued down. This is a little stone, and this is a pebble that I got from outside. And this is a leaf again, and some more leaves. And then I just, it was kind of difficult, but I glued some leaves to the top. So you would have to be patient. You'd probably have to turn it upside down, glue, hold it down, wait for it to dry. But that just gives it more depth if you glue things to the ridge or the rim of the box as well. So in this one, my interpretation of that poem with the pear was 2 ladybugs. And then I just created a little fantasy scene. And so that was a fun one. Another one that I've created is this one with the bunny. And you know, I showed you that little stamp earlier that has the egg. This would be a fun one for Easter if I wanted to stamp something with an egg and a bunny. But so far I've just created a little scene that I glued down little strips of green paper with grass, and then of course I colored the sky. I think I actually painted that with watercolors. And then there are little magazine cutouts for the tulips, and then there's another flower. These, I didn't say a hole punch, but if you have a hole punch at home, you could actually punch little pieces of paper, just plain white paper, and you could glue them together. That's what these are for the clouds. So the sky's the limit, and I do have a sky in this picture, so I wanted to use that pun, but the sky's the limit. You can use any found objects or materials that you want that are free to you. You don't have to really buy anything. And of course this bunny was just a little tiny toy, just a little toy that I found. So you could use tiny little toys in these as well. This is a very small box, so it's only about half the size of the palm of my hand. And the one I'm gonna work on today is this one, and then we will finish up this little video. So I wanted to do sort of an ocean scene. Pause.